So, good evening, everyone. We have a bunch of new folks tonight here. Since there are, did you come as a group?
Some of us, four of us did.
How did you hear about the center in our?
We work at Early Bird.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Great.
And she's our daughter, and she told us about it.
Great. Well, let me ask you to introduce yourself and just let me know if you have any meditation experience, and then I'll talk a little bit about what we do here. Sir.
My name is David. I have no meditation experience.
Perfect. I love to hear that. And I'm sincere when I say that. So welcome, David.
My name is Annette. I'm David's wife, and I have no meditation experience.
Doubly perfect. Annette and David. I usually got to hear names a few times before I remember, so forgive me if I forget. David and Annette. Young lady?
My name is Nessa. I have some.
What type of meditation do you do, Nessa?
Well, I usually don't, but I have done some.
Look, I'll talk you into what we do here. Very simple method. Welcome, Nessa. Sir.
My name's Kim. I have no experience.
Isn't this great? I have none either, so we'll see. Welcome, Ken.
My name's Isabel, and I have a little bit of experience with meditating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome, Isabel.
Thank you.
David. Annette, Nessa, Ken, Isabel. Sir.
My name's Nash, and I don't have any meditation experience.
This is wonderful. Great. Welcome, Nash. Young lady.
My name is Vicky, and I have some, and I was referred here by Matthew.
Oh, good. Yeah, great referral. So is that all the new folks, I think? Well, welcome everyone else. It's good to see you all. Like I said, I'll probably ask you a few times for your name, but one of our regulars came in and said, the talk. I usually give a talk based on something related to meditation, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And tonight's talk looked like it was going to be a rather long talk, and this person said, I'm not ready for a long talk tonight, so I'm not going to give that talk. But what I will give is an introductory talk about what we do here, which is much more appropriate with all the new folks. The meditation method I teach is called Shamatha-Vipassana meditation. Shamatha means to quiet the mind. Vipassana means to gain insight, and it's a very specific type of insight. The method itself is very simple. It's just being mindful of the breath. It's the meditation method that an awakened human being known as the Buddha taught 2,600 years ago. How much of the new folks, do you have an understanding of Buddhism and the Eightfold Path? You could just raise your hand to let me know. Kind of. Okay. So the meditation method I teach is one factor of the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation. And you could use the words appropriate instead of right, meaning appropriate view, etc., skillful view. But by using the term right or appropriate or skillful means that there's an opposing part of that. There's such a thing as a wrong view. There could be wrong intention. There could be wrong speech. I think we've all said things in our past that we wish we didn't say, wish we could take back. Those are all aspects of living a human life, but contributing to our own confusion and suffering in our life. The aspect of meditation, meaning that there's such a thing as right meditation, was something the Buddha taught 2,600 years ago. That there is such a thing as wrong or unskillful meditation in relation to the Eightfold Path. It doesn't mean that other meditation methods are hurtful or unwholesome in any way. They're just not what an awakened human being taught. And that's the only distinction that I like to make between what I teach and modern meditation practices. A very quick background on myself. Meditating back in 1981 when I was 2 years old. I was 26 at the time, so you can guess. 61, I'll be 62 next month. I've been meditating a long time, and I've tried, I bet you 80-90% of the different meditation methods out there. I started with transcendental meditation, and I found that very useful for a while, for a couple of years. until I started looking for a little bit more, that there needed to be more than just a mantra-based meditation. There were a few other things going on with TM at the time that kind of turned me off, and I started getting into the different modern Buddhist schools. I spent many years in the Tibetan Buddhist lineage called the Kagyu lineage. I actually took vows in that lineage, and I since disavowed them. The longer I practice that type of Buddhist practice, the more confused and frustrated I became. And this is not a reflection on Kagyu Tibetan Buddhism, it's a reflection on me. I wasn't getting what I needed out of it. And out of frustration, I left the Tibetan tradition and I started studying in the Zen tradition for many years. And I got increasingly more confused and frustrated. Again, this isn't a commentary on the Zen tradition, it's a commentary on my ability to develop the Zen tradition. It wasn't until frustration and confusion that I decided that an awakened human being must have taught something that it was of value to me. Let me see if I could find it. And I started studying the Buddhist teachings as preserved in a set of books called the Pali Canon. It's a very difficult read, but one of the things that I discovered out of that Pali Canon was the consistency of what this awakened human being taught. And it took me a while to realize this. But after a few years of study, I realized that everything the Buddha taught was taught in relationship to something called the Four Noble Truths. Everything the Buddha taught for the 45 years of his teaching career was taught in the context of Four Noble Truths. And those Four Noble Truths start with the word dukkha. Dukkha means anything from mild disappointment and unsatisfactory experiences all the way up to extreme emotional and physical suffering. The Buddha stated in the First Noble Truth that as a consequence of having a human life, we will all experience dukkha. It's inescapable. Why is that so important, and why did it take an awakened human being to point that out to us when we know that life is difficult at times, isn't it? The problem with dukkha is we become so preoccupied with chasing after those things that give us pleasure and avoiding anything that might take away from our pleasure that we miss what's occurring in our life. And we start creating identities over what we like and what we don't like. And we've all done that. I like this, I don't like that. I like chocolate cake, I don't like cherry pie. I like this political party, I don't like that political party. That's as far as I'm going with that today. We create identities. And as we create those identities, we also create a position to defend those identities. That's called I-making. It's an aspect of craving to maintain this ego personality. And once that personality is formed, we start clinging to it. The second noble truth is craving initiates an unsatisfactory experience. Clinging to these views that we've created continues that unsatisfactory experience. And so life becomes a constant, ongoing cycle of chasing all those things that we want or think we need to make us happy, and doing anything and everything to avoid anything that might take away from that pleasure or from our safety, or from what we have associated with. We start creating very hardened views about that. Those are called views rooted in a lack of understanding of the way things really are. The third noble truth is that cessation of this process of grasping after things, cessation of that process is possible. And not to put a value on any of the noble truths, but that third noble truth is probably the most important because it points to the possibility of ending this confused way of looking at the world and engaging in the world. The fourth noble truth is that the Eightfold Path is the path leading to the cessation of unsatisfactory experiences. I've said all that and given that background. How many of you want to stay? Good. It's not the reason why I say that is I don't want to give too much information just to make it sound terribly confusing. It really isn't, but that is a lot of information, and I'm going to go just a little bit further. The Buddha awakened to something called dependent origination, and this is probably one of the most misunderstood and misapplied teachings that have developed in the 2,600 years since this awakened human being passed. The misapplication of dependent origination has been used to justify changing what this awakened human being did. And again, I don't have an argument with that. The only reason I'm saying that is it's important to understand that what the Buddha taught is significantly different than most of what has developed since his passing. better, although I think it is. It just means that it's different, and that's important. The Buddha awakened to dependent origination, which states, from ignorance of those Four Noble Truths, through 12 observable causative links, all manner of suffering arises. Immediately, that's pointing to what do we need to do to end ignorance, develop these Four Noble Truths. So the meditation method is one factor of that fourth noble truth. And it is, and I teach it and the Buddha taught it within the context of all 8 factors of the Eightfold Path. The reason why I say that is hopefully every one of you is going to continue with the meditation practice. Understand that it's not just meditation alone. Meditation is primarily for deepening concentration so that we can use that concentration to support mindfulness of all 8 factors of the Eightfold Path. So it's that Eightfold Path that is a framework for developing awakening. Now, I'm going to just clarify what that means in relation to the Buddhist teachings, and then we'll get to a meditation. Awakening, as the Buddha taught awakening, is nothing magical or mystical. It's nothing esoteric. It doesn't take any type of special abilities. We don't have to have the right kind of karma. We don't even have to have the right kind of teacher. Any teacher will do, as long as they know what they're talking about. So hopefully I know what I'm talking about. What it does take is some effort, and that's part of right effort. Going to gain benefit from meditation is to actually meditate, but that's not hard to establish. And I'll talk a little bit more about beginning a practice later on in class. But it does take the continued effort to develop an understanding of the Eightfold Path as well. And that's what the classes are about here. I teach classes here Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, and Saturday mornings. And every class is taught in the context of the Four Noble Truths. It's taught in the context of the Eightfold Path. And every teaching that I give is based on a sutta, meaning a teaching of the Buddha that is preserved in the Pali Canon. I don't teach anything that's outside of that. I don't teach anything that the Buddha didn't teach. For the sole reason that I found teaching outside of that context is usually confusing, and it's also unnecessary. The path the Buddha taught for human beings to awaken is a very simple and direct path that anybody can develop. It just takes the right effort and it takes the right focus. So awakening, as a Buddha taught awakening, human maturity. If you think about someone who is immature and meaning they lack an understanding of the way the world is, that's ignorance, isn't it? We don't understand something. So using that word ignorance, it simply refers to the Four Noble Truths. The Buddha is not saying, and I'm not saying, that we're ignorant just because we're human beings. We're ignorant of something very specific, Four Noble Truths. We develop wisdom and awakening by developing an understanding of these Four Noble Truths. That's rooted in meditation, but it's also supported by the other 8 factors, the other 7 factors of the Eightfold Path. So, are you still with me? Wow, that's pretty good. That's as far as I'm going tonight. Just remember that it's meditation is one factor of the Eightfold Path, and our ongoing classes are about the Eightfold Path. On my website, crossrivermeditation.com, and now becoming-buddha.com, there are years of articles and talks related to everything I just said. I've written a couple of books to help explain this as well, and they're out there. That being said, kind of forget everything I just said and remember that last thing. It's not just meditation. And then learn how to meditate and then slowly develop the rest of the Eightfold Path. And you'll learn how to integrate it and develop it. It really isn't all that difficult. Most of the terms I used are unfamiliar, and that's the initial difficulty. You don't know what I'm talking about, and you really can't. One of the things that Buddha said for teaching career is ehipassiko, which means come and see for yourself. What that means is that it's not enough to listen to somebody talk about it, sometimes talk about it too much. You have to experience. You have to actually develop it. One of the things that we are so fortunate to have here in Frenchtown is the Sangha that we've developed. This is something that is somewhat unique in modern Buddhism, a group of well-focused Dhamma practitioners, which you all are now. So the meditation method, I'll talk us into it, and then I'll answer any questions that you might have after it, and then I'll give you some information about how to develop a practice. And the rest of the Sangha will support us in that too. So as far as the posture itself, there's nothing magical or mystical about a meditation posture. it should be supportive of being as comfortable as possible during the time that you're meditating. And we're going to meditate for 20 minutes tonight. I take my right foot and I put it under my left thigh. I take my left foot and I put it on top of my calf. And I just let my legs drop. I use a block to help support my leg. It makes me more comfortable. You're welcome to do so. There's some blocks in there and some cushions around if you're more comfortable with that. I take my left hand, I put it on top of my right palm, I touch my thumbs, and I let my hands drop. There's nothing magical or mystical about this. This happens to be called the cosmic mudra, but there's nothing cosmic about it. What's important is to be consistent in your posture, and as you develop your practice in the time that you meditate, in the method that you meditate with. If this is uncomfortable to sit this way, any way that you sit is fine. And another thing, it's okay to move. If you find that the position that you've chosen is uncomfortable, it's okay to move during meditation. Also keep in mind that the more still our body is, the more still our mind will be. But we shouldn't be so rigid that we become like a rock here, and I can't move. I can't do anything. If it helps you to relax, move a little bit. Come back to the meditation posture. If you're sitting on a chair, keep your back straight but not stiff. Your feet, it's best to have your feet flat on the floor if that's comfortable for you. If it's not, what's most important is to find a position that is comfortable for you for the meditation period. We're going to meditate for 20 minutes. That's a long time for a first meditation. For most people, you might not find it that way. If it becomes uncomfortable, just simply stop the method and sit quietly. About every 5 minutes during the meditation that we're going to do, there'll be a callback, and what that means is it's just a reminder to come back to their breathing, and you can use that to keep yourself focused. Right in that room to the left, you'll find a couple of blocks. Does anybody else need some blocks for your legs to be comfortable? Okay. Props are okay. You can use at home. You could use a rolled up towel or a blanket too. Okay, so find your relaxed meditative posture. Gently close your eyes and gently close your mouth. And holding your back straight but not stiff. Your ears aligned with your shoulders, nose aligned with your navel. But holding yourself very loosely, very gently, very lovingly. Allow yourselves to settle into this room. Settle onto your seats. Settle into your bodies. And settle into your minds. And just take a moment to become aware of the sensation of breathing in your body. Just get a feel for what that's like. To be mindful of your breath in your body. And if you can pick up your breath right at the tip of your nose, place your mindfulness there. But if you can't pick up your breath there, however you find yourself breathing, simply be mindful of that pure sensation of breathing in your body. And while remaining mindful of your breath in your body, notice that thoughts are flowing. We're conscious beings, thoughts should be flowing. The purpose of meditation is to not be distracted by your own thoughts. So when you find that you're caught up in your thinking again, simply acknowledge that and return your mindfulness to the sensation of breathing. I'll repeat that. When you find that you're caught up in your thinking again, simply acknowledge that and return your mindfulness to the sensation of breathing. Relaxing your thoughts, remaining mindful of your breathing. And we'll meditate for 20 minutes with callbacks every 5 minutes. Relaxing your thoughts, remaining mindful of your breathing. thoughts, remaining mindful of your breathing. Relaxing thoughts, remaining mindful of your breathing. Thought or feeling arises, stay with it for a moment or two. Recognize it as impermanent and return your mindfulness to the sensation of breathing. And we'll meditate for 5 more minutes. take a moment to notice the quality of your mind. Be at peace with your mind. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. So I'd like to hear how your meditation went, and if you have any questions about what we've just done and my talk tonight. We'll start with Dave. Dave, welcome to our Sangha.
I felt the breathing slow down considerably, like within the first 5 minutes.
And you were able to maintain the method? You
Yeah.
caught yourself when you were just thinking, came back to your breath?
Yeah.
That's the basic meditation practice, and it just builds on that. The purpose of meditation in this context is primarily for deepening concentration. And we do that by recognizing that we're distracted by our thoughts, come back to our breathing.
It happened a few times.
Yeah. it's good. You recognize it. And even that isn't a goal. The reason why I said it is it can get very frustrating to think that I should always be focused on my breath. It's not the point. The point is to simply catch yourself when you're caught up in your thoughts, come back to your breathing. And in that sense, then every meditation session is a successful session. And that, again, it's for deepening concentration. So you did well. I'm glad you joined us tonight. Annette? Yeah, I don't know if I'll make it all the way around, but how was your meditation?
It was good. I caught myself weaving different thoughts, but the thoughts that I was going to or the thoughts that pop in my head were high school thoughts.
Oh.
And I just kind of said, why is that popping in my head? You know, that's just not, why am I thinking about high school? And then I would just focus on my breathing again. And in the last 5 minutes, I kind of I felt like I wasn't, because my legs started cramping.
Yeah.
I lost that there. I need to figure out maybe a style where I can sit down and not, or practice more.
Yeah, the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll be. But you can use blocks or use some towels rolled up under your. I've been meditating for 300 years or so, and I still use a block. So, and again, the same question: when you found you were caught up in your thinking, you came back to your breath.
Yes.
That's the basic practice. So good for you, and welcome to our Sangha.
Thank you.
Nessa, how was your meditation? Again, you were able to maintain the method as best as you could. Well, I'm glad you joined us tonight. Ken.
Actually, it's Tim.
Tim.
It does sound like Ken.
To these ears it does. Welcome, Tim. How was your meditation?
It was wonderful. Found that when you talked, I don't know if I was asleep or I called back and I focused on my breathing and then tried very hard. And it worked with my thoughts that drifting, just bring back my breathing.
Yeah.
And the voice would come back and get me out of it again.
That's the basic practice, and it just deepens. There's nothing complicated about it. There's a recording of this meditation on my website. You can download it and use it to guide your meditation too. If you I can't stand listening to my own voice, but some people find all that. Welcome, Tim. I forgot your name, young lady. Welcome. How was your meditation?
It was good. It was good. Yeah, I felt very I don't know. I kind of felt like I was going when I would get into my thoughts, or just deeper into it. I could feel myself getting deeper into it, and kind of this weight, and I felt the physical changes of my body kind of settling into this, because I have a tendency to really be keep my shoulders up
Everybody
high.
does.
Yeah. And it's something since I was a little kid that I've always been so I don't know, it's just the physicality of it and mentally, and then I would, as soon I could just feel that tickle in my nose, I would immediately go back into my breath. And it was really cool.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's not all that difficult.
No,
Again, 20 minutes might seem like a long time, and it is when you're
I'm a little
starting out.
nervous about that at first, like the 20 minutes, but I stopped thinking about time. I let that kind of.
Good for you, and you did it right. I mean, it's not something that's impossible to do. You think about it, it's a little strange to think that an adult person can't just sit quietly for 20 minutes, but many people struggle with that, at least at first. But, well, and I'll talk a little bit more about establishing a practice before we finish tonight. I tape these talks too, so they're online, and that's going to be part of it. Sir, welcome to our Sangha. I forgot your name too.
Nash.
Nash, welcome.
Thank you.
How was your meditation, Nash?
It was very good. I found myself drifting a lot, like very often, but I was able to like bring myself back when I like tried to. Yeah. But sometimes I would like bring myself back to my breathing, and I would. It was always a different thought. Like when you said the thing about if you find yourself returning to the same thought, think about that. And I thought I had like every thought's been something different. Yeah. So I don't know. It was almost, and sometimes it was like rapid fire. Like I would drift somewhere and I would bring myself back, and I would stop myself from like going into my thoughts. Yep. And that's the meditation method. And it's a good example of why we use meditation to deepen concentration, because you're describing what for everybody is distraction. We get caught up in our thoughts. And without giving another talk tonight, it's that most of us live our lives caught up in our thoughts and using the story that we're telling ourselves to color the experience that we're having. When we gain control of our thinking, which is really what meditation within this broader framework is about, we gain control of our lives and the experience that we have in our life. And our life becomes an ongoing experience of peace and calm, or an awakened mind. So, welcome, Nash. I'm glad you joined us tonight. And young lady, I forgot your name. Vicky, welcome to our Sangha.
Thank you. I also found it very peaceful and calming, and like Ken said, Ken?
Ken.
No, I'm sorry, I did it.
You're going to be Ken for a long time.
But I also rather quickly really found my breath just like really slow down.
Wow.
And so I was counting, the in-breath and the exhale. And then, but then periodically I would start over counting, like, paying attention to the breath, but counting like 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And then I thought, well, as I continue to do this, like my numbers of counting may really reduce because I'm like breathing so much slower. But I also started thinking about something that I don't know if I'm going to do or not, that might cause someone some pain.
It might, I'm sorry, it might cause.
I was starting, so like, I kept going to, I don't know if I'm going to do something that might cause somebody some pain, but primarily to clear my name. And when I first started thinking that, like I got hot. I felt the heat.
Yeah, the physical reaction
to it. Yeah. Come back to the counting and relaxing, but that's one element of my thought that kept coming up. I don't know if I'm going to do this because I feel the need to clear my name, but it's going to hurt some other people. Yeah. So I don't know what to do, but because I feel like I'm being slandered right now. But anyway, and then I'm trying to be mindful of right speech and all that you said. So I don't even know if I can say that in here.
You can say anything you want here.
But I really was amazed at how quiet or soft my breath got, like how much slower it got. And I felt very calm. And in fact, I could have kept going. Like initially I thought, oh my God, 20 minutes is so long. When we first got silent, I'm like, oh my God, this is so quiet. Like, how can I do this? but it was really nice.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you remember that meditation is primarily for deepening concentration, whatever comes up, even a personal issue, come back to the sensation of breathing and try to put that aside as best you can for the period of meditation. The reason I say that is twofold. One is the more well concentrated you are, the better you are able to deal with life. And then as you develop the Eightfold Path, you'll realize there's great freedom that comes from integrating the Eightfold Path, because then you don't have to think so hard about, is my behavior appropriate? It simply is. It's an expression of the Eightfold Path. And you'll understand that just a little bit more as you deepen this understanding. And it doesn't take years and years and years and years and years. Very quickly, you'll start recognizing the benefits and also recognizing that you're integrating the Eightfold Path into your life. And it helps those decisions greatly just by being framed properly. So before we go around and talk to the regulars, as you're beginning a meditation practice or reinvigorating one that's stalled, start with short periods of meditation. 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes is more than enough to begin a meditation practice. If you try to do too much, most people will find it's just too hard and decide they can't do it. But I would bet everyone in this room started with short periods of meditation, and I'm going to ask them when we go around. I did too. I started with 5 minutes, and I was told don't go past that until the teacher gave me the okay. And that worked pretty well for me. Short periods of meditation, consistency is important. If you can do that every day and twice a day, very quickly you're going to have a well-established meditation practice. If you can join us here Tuesdays or Thursdays or Saturdays, it's a great support. And again, you're going to hear from the regulars about how important that is. Ananda, who was the Buddha's cousin and his attendant for the last 25 years of his life, asked his cousin, the Buddha, one day, expecting to get this great magical cosmic answer. He said, what's the most important part of the Dhamma? And the Buddha said, cuz. He says, the Sangha is the most. He didn't say cuz. I was like, well, maybe he did. I don't know. He said the Sangha is the most important part of the Dhamma, meaning we can't do it alone. But we really are fortunate to have it's developed here in Frenchtown. I've been teaching here about 7 or 8 years. And, we have a wonderfully warm and welcoming Sangha, all 3 classes. So I hope you join us again. There's a recording, as I said, on becoming-buddha.com and also crossovermeditation.com that you can download and help guide your practice. It's 20 minutes, I think, but you don't have to meditate for 20 minutes. You can just use it. And please join us here again. I send a newsletter out Mondays and Thursdays just describing the class and kind of a reminder to come and join us. So I'm glad you joined us tonight. Ram, how was your meditation, and what would you pass on to newcomers today?
Well, the funny thing is, I was just meditating or thinking about how my regular meditation in the morning is almost effortless.
Now,
it's very easy. I can flip back and forth. I mean, I get caught up in thinking, but I get out of it. It's almost to the point where the thinking and the breathing is happening at the same time.
Yeah.
It's the distraction is disappearing.
Yeah.
But the funny thing was, on the weekends I like to take nice long walks on the towpath here. I got caught up in a thought pattern that I had a really hard time breaking. And it was outside of my meditation experience, but I just got caught up in the story, and as much as I realized that I was caught up in it and wanted to just end it or just break it off, it just kept coming back up. And that's happened more. It's hard to see that contrast between sitting on the cushion or on my seat and doing it in a different context.
Yeah.
Trying to do a walking meditation.
Yep.
it was, I wouldn't say it was disturbing, but it was, I found it very interesting that those two experiences can be so different.
And it could just be nervous energy, just the way your body's dealing with something.
Yeah.
But it also you point out two things that are important. One is that walking meditation isn't meditation, it's something else. And that recognizing that thoughts are flowing, but there's still the breath. Lorna was talking about this a while ago too. Meditation is not to develop a trance-like state or to not have any thoughts. It's simply to not be distracted by your thoughts. When I say that we're in meditation, we're conscious beings, thoughts should be flowing. Again, it's not about a trance-like state. It's simply about not being distracted, like Ron described. Don't be distracted by your thoughts. They're flowing, and they'll always be flowing. There'll be times when you lose the perception of your thoughts, but yet they're still flowing. You're simply not distracted. And when you can take that off of your cushion, then you have developed a well-concentrated mind, and you've gained the ability to think what you want to think when you want to think it. Thank you, Ron. Mary, good to see you tonight.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I haven't been here in a few weeks.
Yes, we missed you.
But I'm very active. I've been live streaming, which is, I was watching the videos, but I hadn't really live streamed. And it's, just something in your own head that you're there at the time that it's happening. It's nice. It's really nice. Of course, it's always great to hear, everybody's experience, even when I think I've been away for maybe a month, I don't know. Yeah. So it's wonderful to be back. My morning sit is easy. I get out of bed. I look forward to it. That didn't come naturally to me, being able to sit for 20 or 30 minutes, or even getting the people in my life to respect the fact that I wanted to sit. This means don't interrupt. Don't hang it in front of my face and say, yeah, but Mom, this one, are these the keys? So that took a while to train everybody around me, but I have that now, which is really lovely because I was easily distracted. And then my evening sit, that I have to carve out time for that. I tend to get caught up in making sure I get, like some sort of hike in or something at the end of the day, most days. Then making dinner is an event in my family with all of us. My children around a lot this summer. And then it's time for shower, bed, So I've had to work hard to maintain that this summer. But it's been a good trade-off for all those other things that I just mentioned. But I'm trying to get back into it. I really want to. I'm focusing on right effort in other parts of my life, and that's a piece of it as well. So, so I'm just trying to stay with it because I really, something you said recently, and like many things that you've said before, it had an impact on me in that it really is about deepening concentration. It's not about anything else, and that's the simplicity of it. Yeah. Because all the other good parts will come as a result. Yeah. If stress reduction, that's an outcome from it. You don't go into it necessarily thinking about stress reduction. And even today, I was describing at dinner, I went into two very difficult, what could have been very difficult or uncomfortable negotiations for me with two different customers. And they flowed very naturally, very organically, with mindful preparation, but not a lot of paperwork or anything. I really went in and had a conversation. So I really felt like the practice was integrated into my busy business life today as well. So it's going well. And I'm trying to be a little more disciplined about my evening set.
Thank you. And you described the practical benefits of it too. What these teachings are about are practically applied. They make our lives better very quickly. And you started with short periods of meditation, and you built up to
absolutely
a very effective
mind, very easily distracted. If I heard someone coming up the stairs, I'd say, "Oh, you need something." I can get up for what I'm doing, really. So I would be very short, and then you begin to look forward to it, and then you're like, okay, everybody, I'm going to meditate, you know. And very quickly, I was able to meditate because you see the benefits of 30 minutes versus 5 minutes even.
Yeah.
It starts to, I'm sure it starts to change your brain and, you know, many other things, which then clears things. You get immediate reward.
Yep.
I know that's not the intention, right? But you do. You get immediate validation, maybe is a better way. You get immediate, very quickly things start popping up and you're like, that's because I'm clear-headed. Or I didn't react the way I would normally react. Or, you know, normally that would really piss me off, whatever it is. And then once you start experiencing that validation. Right?
Yeah, it's important to recognize that. Again, it's not why we do it, but it's important to see the practical benefits. When there's less conflict in our minds, there's less conflict in our life. It's just the way it is. Thank you, Mary. Helen, good to see you tonight. How are you?
Thank you. Always good to be here. We are very lucky to have the Sangha.
Yeah, we are.
There's so much to be gained just from each other. Well, a lot of what Mary said is exactly what I was thinking too. I haven't gotten my morning meditation up to 30 minutes. I would really have to get up early, super early to do that. But I'm finding that I'm naturally going longer than I had been. Like when I look at my clock, I've gone 5 minutes or so longer than I thought I had. So it's sort of segueing into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole sense of like understanding the Eightfold Path really is such a good roadmap to how to navigate your day, your career, your relationships, and it's an invaluable tool. And I use it all the time. And you know, you start to get sort of peripheral feedback from people, and they, you know, start to say, "Hey, you really handled that well," or "You know, I love the way you do that," or whatever. And so the effect is there's a ripple effect to it, which is nice.
Yeah.
So yes, it's wonderful.
Thank you. Good to hear. Bonnie, how are you tonight?
I've been really very busy, but I tend anyway to do mindfulness all day, and even if I can't do more than 5 minutes in between sessions, I'm really working on acknowledging what I talked about this last week, what arises.
Yep.
And to move my ego out of the way, and to try to change, to not get caught up in the conditioned story that has occurred, and it's made a big difference in areas that sometimes seem more conflictual, that are more loving, and like I think Helen and Mary talking about it also has for me, and that's really direct application for my livelihood.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it's simple, you know. There's this simplicity to what really needs to not needs to occur, but what can occur in order to. So I have to really hold myself to, you know, it's like, hey, I have this really cool thing, and it's really neat, you know, to not, it's sort of like how to translate what I've learned, even on top of what I do, so that I can figure out how to translate it so I can help, I can use it as a benefit to myself and then to people who I'm working with.
Yeah.
You know, I would like to sit more, but that will come, I think.
Yeah, and it builds naturally rather than I should be doing this or I should be doing that.
Yeah, I've never been a shooter, so
yeah.
but it really it's because to remember about the breath in the moment when I'm needing to have right view about that, then I can't get myself out of the loop.
Yeah.
So, go all day.
Thank you. Lorna, how are you? Thank you for staying.
Thank you. As far as my meditation goes on the cushion, Sunday morning is my favorite meditation. I don't know what it is about a Sunday, but there's sometimes just a peace about a Sunday. It just kind of slows down and goes at a Sunday pace, and which is not a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday pace. It's a Sunday pace. And I kind of just absorb that. On Sundays, I'm more, that reflects through my meditation. My Sunday morning meditation is my favorite. And from then, I have a very, it's more my mindful days. I just enjoy life just notching back those few paces that it does on a Sunday. And I just, Sundays are my favorite day of the week, without any question. So, and I don't know if that's a reflection of Saturday, because it comes Saturday, and it kind of flows. I think there's something to do with that as well. So that's my meditation. Like everybody else, I have the problem of staying on my breath. Obviously, the thoughts go into my mind. My thoughts generally are of what is going on in my life at the time. What John would call your entanglements, the stuff that just goes on. I start thinking about stuff that's going on in life. It's in my life. So that's generally what my thoughts are, but sometimes not. And then John talks about many, many different aspects of the Dharma. And one of the really difficult things, I just touched on very lightly tonight, but that you're not really who you think you are, which you'll learn a lot more about when you come to class. And that we identify ourselves with what happened at school, what happened in the past, and we sort of latch onto those feelings and the way we think about ourselves. And really, it's just in our head. It's not really in life. And you can understand it's not really in life. It's not in anybody else's head. So why is it in my head?
That's a great way to put it. What the hell's it doing there?
That person really doesn't exist. It just exists in my head, in my thoughts. And I can see that, talk about it, do it. Holding that in mind throughout the day. I think almost too much about that. I try to work on that too much. I should remember that because you can drive yourself a little crazy. So that's generally where my Dharma practice is at the moment. I'm sort of thinking about not changing, but dropping the thoughts that I think I should be. Which sounds double Dutch to almost new people tonight, probably, but as I said, that's one of the more advanced teachings of the Dhamma that John teaches. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Lorna used the word advance. There really is, it takes a while to develop a complete right view of the things that I talk about that the Buddha teaches, but there's really nothing advanced about it. It's just, it does take time. Yeah, you started with short periods of meditation?
Absolutely.
And now you meditate?
I meditate twice a day for at least 20 minutes.
It's pretty remarkable. And it wasn't all that, there were challenges, but overall it's not all that difficult, is it?
No.
Thank you.
And enjoyable. You know, sometimes you just sit and relax.
Yeah,
Sometimes you don't know what your mind is doing, to be honest.
And you don't have to know.
No, all sorts of things happen in meditation, and sometimes I don't know, how much concentration is going on, really. Whether I'm just sitting with an empty mind, whether I'm thinking about my breath, whether I've just come off a thought and I've thought about it, and now that thought's gone and I'm just sitting. I mean, lots and lots and lots go on in your mind. I think meditation is sort of, it's very, and I said to John, your whole life is in meditation. You begin to reflect yourself in meditation, and I think meditation is fascinating.
Yes, it becomes a true refuge in our lives. Thank you. Frank, good to see you tonight. How are you?
Good to be here tonight. Welcome everyone new to the Sangha. I was new, come up on 2 years, I guess, this year. But you said it right there. Like I wanted to talk about the refuge. No matter where I go, I take it with me. I take the friendships in the Sangha. I take the practice of meditation. And I love hearing your voice on the live streams and on the on the podcast, because I take that everywhere I go, download it on my phone, and it's accessible. I have integrated into my life, and it hasn't been made me more aware than this past week, with the sudden death of my brother and restarting up our business. And I like to keep things simple, and the chaos that is going on all around me during the funeral services, the amount of family members coming, how I was able to control what I was thinking, one breath at a time. And and then I could have my alone time with my memories of my brother, on my time, and not be kind of like wrapped up in all the grief there. It was just a bizarre experience. I felt like I was a part of it, but separated from all the madness. And it was peaceful. So I felt a lot of gratitude over the past week of all the hard work that I've put into practice. And for me, it was all about commitment. I also agree with Lorna. Sunday mornings is my favorite time to meditate, and I have duplicated that every single day of the week. I just set my alarm clock. My favorite time, I figure, is because my kids are still sleeping, and my wife works out. So it's like I feel like I'm alone in the house, and so I recreate that every single day. I just get up an hour before everyone else is going to get up, and I have my Sunday morning every day of the week. And it really sets the tone for me for the entire day. And I look forward to it. I used to get up in the morning and be anxious about getting in my truck and driving to a madhouse business where 30 people were going to be, bustling around. And I look forward to going to bed so I can get up and meditate and spend time with my breath, because it's the truest thing that I've ever found to be true in me is the breath. And one breath at a time, I live my life. So that's all I got.
Boy, thank you. One breath at a time, we live our lives. As you continue to come to class, I hope you all do, you'll hear me and all of us talk about the refuge that meditation is and that these teachings are. It really becomes that place of comfort and safety for all of us. On the website, both of them, there's a tab at the top that says for new visitors. If you want to get a real, it's not an in-depth, but a good background to what all this is about, that's a good place to start. And then again, there's a bunch of articles and talks on the website. I hope you continue to join us. There's also a guided Shamatha-Vipassana meditation, and there's instructions too on starting a practice. So, basically what I talked about tonight. The most important thing, and if you continue to come to my classes, you'll hear me say this often, be very gentle with yourself. Don't judge yourself harshly. Don't judge your practice harshly. But if you engage in what we did tonight and be part of our Sangha, you'll have some real practical benefits in your life. So thank you for joining us tonight. A few announcements. I request $15 for the class. Don't ever let money stop you from coming to a class. It's much more important that we be part of a Sangha here in Frenchtown. And the other announcement is our fall retreat is coming up in just about 2 months, October 19th to the 22nd, up in a little town called Claverack, Hudson, New York. It's about 3 hours north of here. It's 4 days that we get to develop the Buddhist teachings in that context of the original Sangha from 2,600 years ago. It's a pretty remarkable experience, we can say. There's some info out there too. So any other questions about our class tonight? Yes, Vicki.
So you do a different talk every time, every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. It's a different.
Yes.
Different every time.
And Wednesday, right?
Here Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:15, Saturday at 8:30 in the morning. It's a different talk related to a sutta from the Pali Canon, the teaching of the Buddha, and that's included in the email that I send out twice a week. Some people like to read it before I give the talk, or you can listen. Most of them have a talk associated with them already. So yes, there's a different talk. Tonight's talk was on something called the Maha-Assapura Sutta, which I'll now give next Tuesday. And then Wednesday at 12 noon, I stream a short class, usually 12, 15, 20 minutes from my home. And all of the classes are streamed live, and they're also recorded, so you can listen to them.
Oh, so it'll give you a little alert that John is streaming now. So
It does that, huh?
Yeah.
And it works good?
Yeah.
So again, thank you all for joining tonight. We close every class with something called a metta meditation, metta, M-E-T-T-A. Metta means goodwill or loving kindness. And I usually use something, the Buddha's teachings on metta from the Karaniya Metta Sutta, which is what I'll do tonight. So again, find your relaxed meditative posture and gently close your eyes and gently close your mouths. And take a moment to become aware of the sensation of breathing in your bodies again. And let that mindfulness of your breath cease any distracting thoughts to the past or to the future, or that may have arisen from our talks today. And like I said, metta means goodwill or loving kindness. And these are the Buddha's words on metta from the Karaniya Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied. Unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing, in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. None deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. Radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Thank you all for a wonderful class. Peace.